Greetings fellow tabletop gamers and welcome to another Joseph's Ramblings videos, and this time we'll be talking about, well, nobody's favorite subject, TPKs, Total Party Kills, and for this one I am assisted with not only my right hand Philip, but this time with my good friend Nenad as well. Nano, who also has some GMing experience under his belt as well, will be joining us on this topic so that you can hear what not one but two GMs have to say about it. So, how you doing?
Oh, great. TPKs are always fun.
Oh, awesome. Philip?
Amazingly, because, guess what? We had a TPK recently.
No. We had a semi-TPK.
Yes.
Okay,
Please.
yeah.
So that is the main reasons for making this video. For those that haven't watched it yet, during our previous session there was some of the decisions my players made weren't the best. Let's put it that way.
To say the least.
Half of the party, well, more than half of the party actually died. So here we are now talking about TPKs.
People have to realize that ROTS is a very dangerous game and very realistic, so TPK should actually be more common.
That's a good point, Philip. We will be discussing TPKs from that aspect, right? From the venue of a realistic fantasy, yes, but still a realistic fantasy, hardcore, brutal tabletop RPG, which is ROTS, coincidentally. Today we'll be discussing, as I said, TPKs, specifically how to go about TPKs, and what I think is even more important, when. So
is there ever a good moment? I mean, from a player's perspective.
Well, there actually is, and I think I can get
I see my friends are eager, so we'll jump right in it. Philip, let's start with when. So in your opinion, when should a TPK happen?
Well, I'd say when the party really deserves it. If the party gets in way over their heads and there literally is no way out, like if it's from their own doing or if the consequences really catch up to them, then I guess that's it. There should be consequences for players' actions. And if they did so much evil stuff, and I, again, use the term evil loosely, I guess they kind of deserve it.
I know my Nano's kind of, no spoilers. Well, okay, Nano, yes. In your opinion, when should a TPK occur, if ever?
See, that's very hard, because none of the players want to die. Clearly, right? You always, as a GM, like you have your story and the players are telling it. Sometimes things do go wrong, but I always tend to kind of find a solution around it. I personally don't like TPKs, neither happening to me as a player or when it happens in the session, when I'm GMing. It also depends whether you're playing with your, let's say, friends, or you're GMing, let's say, a session of people you don't really know. If it goes bad, you as a GM at some stage, you might choose to get rid of whole party, or the party finds itself in a situation where they just misjudge horribly the thing that is in front of them. And you as a GM, you can do only so much for them, right? You cannot go way out of your way for it not to happen. But to go back to your original question of when, definitely not at the end of the campaign, right? Because then you are taking away that sense of pride and achievement from the players.
Okay, that's interesting.
Unless you give them an option for a TPK to be like for the greater cause, and they decide to do that.
Going out in a blaze of glory.
Exactly, yeah.
You said GMs that play with strangers or with players. Although I'm not really sure how. Yeah,
I mean, look, you can.
But what would be the distinction? What I was gonna ask you is what? So if a GM is playing with players, he should be more lenient than with strangers. If they're strangers, fuck you.
No, I'm not saying that, but you know how it is in real life. You are seeing those people every day, right? You have to listen to them nag and complain about what you did.
I know. The case my good friend Philip, who likes to remind me how I kill certain characters.
Exactly.
So what I gather from this is you're basically in the same camp as Philip. If the situation deems it, if the players' the consequences of the players' actions are such that it should occur, then let it happen. I'm gonna basically agree with what both of you said. I think I'm gonna say there's the ideal situation when TPK could happen, and then there's the not so ideal situation. So the ideal situation would be when the players and the GM are in agreement that the situation calls for a TPK. Now, what do I mean by this? If it's, for instance, the end of the campaign and the characters are willingly going into a suicide mission for the greater good, going out in a blaze of glory, and they've discussed this privately outside of the game with the GM, and they're like, look, we understand that there is no way that this is gonna end with us surviving. We also know that we technically could go around resolving this situation a different way, but we as players have agreed that although this will be very detrimental to our characters, since, you know, they'll be dead, but in discussing amongst ourselves, we believe that the world itself will be better off due to this sacrifice. We've agreed, and we think that you should keep it real, see what the die says, and let's roll, right? So exactly. that would be the ideal situation. Not so ideal situation. And this might be a little bit controversial, but when the players are completely disrespecting the GM and the setting and themselves, technically, in such a situation, the GM has way more problems than thinking about whether a TPK should happen or not. Like, I'm not even gonna go into that. That's a whole topic for a different time. But one way to end such a campaign would be for a GM to be like, mic drop like a boss, like, you're all dead. See ya. What I would avoid as a GM, like always try to avoid, is a situation where the die is not going in the favor of the players. Especially if the players came up with a good plan. And I will go into how. So, in your opinion, Philip, how would you go about doing a TPK?
Well, both narration-wise and giving players that sense, like, even they realize they're about to die, let them have at least some kind of a little bit glory of it. Like, okay, well, for example, a character rushes into, I don't know, a few enemies that are getting up on him, okay? Maybe give him actually the chance to fight few of them off, and by turn, he will go down. But at least give him the chance to strike, and not just to say, "Okay, you dead."
Alright, so it's okay. I think I get it. So it's more you would take more a narration approach. You would kind of at some stage suspend dice rolls and just narrate what happened.
Okay. Yeah, just to maybe ease that pain, that because players are actually experiencing the pain of, okay, this is the moment my character dies. This is the moment I'm giving up my time with this character. Forever.
Yeah, it should be like that if the players have bonded with the characters properly, and if you have some semblance of party cohesion, yeah, it should be like that.
Especially because if you just go, okay, poof, you dead, I'm like, what? That's it? How?
Nano, so how would you go about the TPK is gonna happen? You know, it's obvious the dice are not in the favor, the players have gone way over their heads. How would you go about it?
Well, see, that depends, right? Depending of how the players have acted and whether or not they were respecting the setting and the GM in general. If we're talking about the agreement of a TPK, let's go guys, you know, and this is like, once we sacrifice ourselves, you know, like against this demon lord, the kingdom will be safe, the armies will be rallied against the whatever leech, blah blah blah. Our sacrifice is gonna save this place. Then obviously, as we said, as we discussed here, give them that a little bit of glory feeling. Yeah, fuck yeah, I did this, I'm gonna die, but I did this, you know? If we're going the other way, and we're talking about the players being extremely detrimental to the setting, and disrespecting the GM and all that he's trying to do for them, then as you mentioned before, you kind of need to send a message. right? And then in that case, I mean, I'm sorry, I know it sounds cruel, but that's how it is, right? Like you want to be respected like anyone else. Their TPK is not gonna be as nice as the glorious one, right? You know, like you then have two approaches, right? You can either be like, fuck you guys, like this is it, you're all dead, or if you want to send a strong message, as you said, you split up the actions. You know, I am attempting this. You succeed. Oh great, I'm gonna do this. You fail. But you fail. Right? And then they will know despair. Right? And they will think again. Whether or not they're gonna be acting in that way.
If any of my players are watching this, so next time you're angry with the GM, remember, things could be worse. Nano could be your GM.
Exactly.
I'm gonna second that. That's my thought exactly. So the how should reflect the why. If they're going in a blaze of glory and it's the end of the campaign and everybody's kind of agreeing to it, and yeah, I would actually use Philip's approach, limit the dice as much as possible, just go with narration. This is actually more doable than people realize, because if the players have agreed to this, then the GM basically has knowledge that this will happen, so he can prepare adequately. If the situation is as Nano says, then I'm gonna have to agree with him, and we'll end with this. TPKs, the nature of TPKs highly depends on the specific campaign in question. If you're playing a hardcore realistic campaign where the GM explains to the players, look, this is a more realistic setting than what you're accustomed to, right? So armor actually functions, you know, so it will prevent wounds, but just because you're armored, that doesn't mean that you're invulnerable. Those 3-4 goblins, you know, they may not seem like a big threat, especially to somebody who's coming from certain other RPGs. But those bastards will gang up on you. They'll grab you, they'll take off that visor that you have, and they'll stick a knife through your head, and that's it. It's game over. You're dead. If the players realize this, and then a TPK happens, I'd say they're gonna take it appropriately. It's not going to be like big drama. Obviously, if the players have connected with their characters, they're going to be sorry, obviously, as they should. But I think that by properly setting up the campaign and explaining to the players what to expect, you can avoid unnecessary drama in case of a TPK. I think we've exhausted this, well, rather unpleasant topic.
Well, if you want, we could talk about what's actually happening in the campaign.
Nope, we're not going to discuss anything about the campaign. We'll let the players watch the sessions and see what's happening in the campaign during the official session videos. Any closing words? I know.
Whatever you do, try to avoid the TPK at all costs.
Wise words. Philip?
Well, if TPK must happen, do it in a blaze of glory.
We'll end with that. Thank you for watching. I hope everybody got something out of this, and we'll see you next time. Godspeed, adventurers.